Good morning, students. In today's class, we are going to talk about J.B. Priestley's essay, The First Snow. In my earlier classes, we have discussed three essays. We have talked about selected snobberies, we have talked on superstitions, and my wood. These three essays were comparatively a little easy. The essay that we are going to begin today, First Snow, written by Priestley, is a comparatively difficult essay because it encompasses varied many thoughts of the writer. Before we take up the essay in detail, let us talk about J.B. Priestley. J.B. Priestley is a distinguished novelist, short story writer, dramatist, literary critic, and an essayist. His writing style is unique. On one side, he writes on simple working people and the lower middle class in a language and style which harmonizes his medium to the content and his ideas, and on the other side, he expresses a deep intellectual note through his works. His essays are replete with politics and social problems. There is a natural rhythm in his prose which highlights his skill in the use of the most homely type of language. He masterminds the structure of his essays by an admirable synthesis of matter-of-fact passages and emotionally exalted language, revealing his heightened awareness and moments of supreme elation. Now, when we come to the essay, let us divide the essay into three categories. The essay is a long one. In the very first part of the essay, J.B. Priestley talks about his experiences of a few people who have seen the snow for the first time and what are his experiences regarding the fall of the snow. In the second part of the essay, he talks about how the snow can have a dramatic and a magical impact on human beings. And the third part of the essay comprises of that the magic that we feel at the first falling of the snow, does the magic remain the same or do we get tired of it? Now let us discuss the first part of the essay. When J.B. Priestley begins his essay, he talks about the reference from Emma, and he talks about the character Mr. Woodhouse. He says that Jane Austen's characters, they are people in whose life a slight fall of snow is an event. In this context, Priestley says he shares the joy in seeing the first snow. He actually loved the snow and how it transforms the landscape. To the writer, the first fall of snow is not only an event, but it is a magical event. Magical in the sense that you sleep in one kind of a world and wake up to find yourself in another, quite different world. The very stealth, the airy quietness of the things around makes it more magical. He explains that if the snow fell at once in one shattering crash, with a loud noise and awakening us in the middle of the night, the event will not remain magical at all. But the magic lies in the fact that it flutters down soundlessly, hour after hour while we are asleep. When the world is sleeping, inside the closed curtains, a vast transformation scene is taking place, just as if a myriad elf and brownies were at work, and we turn and yawn and stretch and know nothing about it. Before the writer gives these references, he talks about an episode where he meets three young girls from British Guiana, which was a British colony but now a state. And he says that when these girls returned from their first visit to England, the two things that impressed these girls were the endless crowds of people in the London streets. All of them were strangers, which was something which was very unique to them because they had come from a small place where everybody knew everybody. And the second was the snow-covered landscape they awoke to one morning while they were staying somewhere in Somerset. Priestley explains that these girls were so excited and thrilled that they flung away any pretense of being demure young ladies and rushed out of the house to run to and fro across the glittering white expanses, happily scattering footmarks on the untrodden surface, just as the children did in this garden the morning. In this continuation, J.B. Priestley says that the falling of the snow not only transformed the exteriors but also the interiors. Every room appears smaller and cozier, just as if some power were trying to turn it into a woodcutter's hut or a snug log cabin. One can witness the dramatic change in the scene outside. Where the garden was yesterday, there is now a white and glistening level, and the village is not the same old village but a village in an old German fairy tale. It appears as if all the residents of the village have changed into queer elvish beings, purveyors of invisible caps and magic shoes. When the entire scenario changes, you yourself feel the change. Everything outside is so magical that neither the adults nor the children can resist it. Nobody can resist the windows. It is like being on board ship. So in the first part of the essay, the writer is trying to explain the falling of the snow. The very remarkable thing about the falling of the snow that the writer explains is that it is a magical event. And why does he call it magical? He calls it magical because he says that we are sleeping in the night in a dark world, a world which was covered with, say, the brown color or the mud, and we wake up in the morning, we awake to a bright new world which is full of whiteness. Why? Because the snow has fallen in the night. The second magical thing about the falling of the snow is that it isn't coming down in shudders and a lot of noise, but it is falling down without making any noise. The best part is that when you wake up in the morning, you find a new world around you. Slowly in the night, the snow keeps on falling and changing the entire landscape. Everything appears to be out of a fairy tale. It appears as if you have slept in one world and woken up into another world. He says the changes that we feel are not only the changes that happen in the exterior world, but also the changes that happen in the interior world. The room that we are sitting in, the place that we are occupying seems to take a new look. Everything changes. Then he says that when you get up in the morning, the world becomes a shade of white. The light which is coming from the windows is very strange. And the sun comes out and then everything changes. So transformation takes place in the night. The brown color of the landscape changes into the white. And the white in the morning changes to another color with the coming of the sun. The second part of the chapter, second part of the essay talks about the change that has taken place. And the last part of the chapter talks about that whether the process which appears to be magical is indeed magical or we get tired of it. Since it's a lengthy essay, we will take it in parts. So in today's part, the first part of the essay, we are just going to cover the falling of the snow, the transformation that happens with the falling of the snow. What are the repercussions of the falling of the snow and how does it change the mindset of human beings? This is going to be discussed in the second part of the chapter. That is in tomorrow's class. Thank you.